My name is Alana Pierce. I'm 36 years old, and the day my husband's sister moved into my house was the last day I ever truly felt at home. It started with a knock on the door, not the kind that shouts urgency, but the kind that sounds like it already belongs there. That was Olivia, my sister-in-law. She was crying, mascara trailing like black cracks down her perfect porcelain face. She said her fiancé had left her. She said she had nowhere else to go. She said, "Please, Alana, I just need a few days." My husband, Marcus, didn't even look at me before answering. Of course, Liv, stay as long as you need. That was the moment everything shifted, and I didn't even know it yet. Olivia had always been dramatic, the kind of woman who made chaos look fashionable. She had a flair for tears, a love for attention, and a deep talent for pretending weakness. But Marcus adored her, his baby sister, his delicate little dove, as he used to call her, even though she was 31, manipulative, and as calculated as a surgeon. She moved into the guest room, but within days, her scent filled every hallway Chanel No. 5, clinging to every towel and pillow. She claimed her clothes wouldn't fit in the guest closet, so she asked Marcus to clear space in ours. "Just a few hangers." She giggled. "You won't even notice." I noticed. I noticed when my toothbrush was suddenly next to hers, when she started cooking dinner before I got home, when she called my husband Marky, in front of me like they were high school sweethearts. I noticed when she wore my robe, my perfume, even my earrings, but what broke me wasn't the things she took. It was how easily Marcus let her. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being jealous, that it was just temporary. But then Olivia started dropping comments like poisoned candy. "I made Marky coffee." "Oh, you already did. Oops. Marky always liked his eggs runny, didn't you?" Alana never remembers. "Marky, remember when we were kids and used to sleep in the same bed during storms? God, those were the best nights." She said these things with a twinkle in her eye, like she was testing me, daring me to speak up. And Marcus, he just laughed, like it was all harmless, like his sister practically living in my skin was some cute, quirky accident. I tried to bring it up to him once, just once. Marcus, I think maybe Olivia's, overstepping a little, don't you? His face hardened like I'd insulted royalty. "She's family, Alana. She's going through something. Can you stop being so possessive for once?" That word, possessive, it echoed in my head like a gavel. I was the wife, the one who held him when his mother died, the one who helped him launch his company, the one who scraped by with him on ramen and frozen pizza when rent was too much. But now I was just in the way. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and Olivia was wearing Marcus's shirt. My shirt, technically a college tee I gave him years ago when we started dating. She stood barefoot, hair tied in a loose bun, flipping pancakes like she belonged. She turned and smiled when she saw me. "Oh good, I made you some too," she said, motioning to a plate she'd already drowned in syrup. I didn't touch it. That same night, I found her curled up on the couch with him watching our show, The Crown. The one he said he'd only watch with me. She was under his blanket, head on his shoulder, and I stood there like a ghost in my own living room. Marcus didn't even blink. She had a hard day. He mumbled, like that excused everything. So I left the room, and that's when it clicked. She wasn't just staying with us. She wasn't just grieving her breakup. Olivia was replacing me, one laugh at a time, one shared memory at a time, one careless, incestuous flirtation at a time. And Marcus was too blind or too bewitched to see it, but I wasn't blind anymore, and I wasn't going to beg. I could feel it boiling in my chest, not just rage, but clarity, a kind of divine, clean fury that sharpened every thought I had. I knew what she wanted. She wanted my life, my comfort, my husband, and she was so smug because she thought I'd let her have it. I didn't scream. I didn't pack my bags. I didn't even tell her off. Instead, I smiled. I smiled when she said she was going to repaint the guest room. I smiled when she asked Marcus to teach her the accounting soft where we both used. I smiled when I found her accidentally trying on my favorite silk nightgown in the laundry room. And in that silence, I started planning. I documented everything, took photos, saved receipts, recorded moments when Marcus would contradict himself 1 minute saying Olivia was just his sister, the next forgetting our anniversary but remembering her coffee order. I called lawyers, set appointments, researched financial transfers, and then, the day she suggested she'd take over grocery shopping permanently, I almost laughed out loud. They thought I was crumbling. But I was building. Every dinner I shared with them after that felt like a rehearsal, one final act before the curtain dropped. Olivia smirked at me across the table like she'd already won. She had no idea. I was letting her feel safe, letting her play queen, because when I took the crown back, I wouldn't just remove her. I'd erase every trace she ever left. And Marcus, he'd learn what it feels like to look up and realize you traded diamonds for dust. It started small, the way betrayal always does. A joke here, a comment there, but Olivia had a skill, a dark, polished skill in planting doubt like seeds. And Marcus, bless his foolish loyalty, watered those seeds with every eye roll, every defensive word. Every time he looked at her like she was a wounded dove and looked at me like I was the predator. She didn't just try to replace me, she worked to erase me. First came the whispers. I heard her once I wasn't supposed to, murmuring on the phone late at night from the guest room. He doesn't even notice her anymore, she said. Then laughter. She's always so cold now, like she resents us being close. Us, as if she and Marcus were some kind of unit, a team, and I was just the bitter outsider. Then she turned up the heat. She started telling Marcus things I supposedly said. Little things at first. Alana told me you never listened to her. She said you don't care about her work anymore. She thinks you're boring now. I knew because he'd repeat them to me almost word for word, but never directly accusing. Instead, he'd drop them like crumbs in a dark forest, hoping I'd confess to something I never said. I heard you've been feeling a little disconnected from me, he said once, casually, while brushing his teeth. I just stared at him, disconnected. I'd been invisible for weeks. I'd been watching my marriage rot from the inside out while his sister played puppet master with his trust. Then came the looks. Marcus started looking at me like I was a problem. Like I was the one tearing this house apart with my energy. He said that once. Your energy lately has been heavy, heavy. I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because I had learned something about Olivia. She didn't win by fighting. She won by pretending she wasn't playing at all. So I played along, but I paid attention. The way she always brought up things from Marcus's childhood moments she knew I could never compete with. Remember when you used to draw comic books and I was your only reader? She'd say, touching his arm lightly, the way she took over traditions that were mine, like Sunday breakfast. I used to make it every weekend. But now she did. Belgian waffles, strawberries, syrup shaped into hearts. She'd lean over his shoulder while he ate, brushing fake crumbs from his shirt like some possessive girlfriend, and I watched. I watched because silence was safer. I was storing it all like weapons for war. I started going to bed early, pretending to be tired. But really, I needed time alone, time to journal every moment, every sentence, every calculated move. Olivia thought she was clever, but her ego made her sloppy. One night, I heard them laughing downstairs, just the two of them. Loud, full-bodied laughter, like something electric had passed between them. I stood in the hallway, staring down the stairs into the dim glow of the living room. They were sitting on the couch, my couch knees touching, faces close, talking about their old summer trips to their uncle's lake house. I wish things could go back to the way they were, Olivia whispered, and then she touched his hand. I saw him hesitate, and then I saw him leave it there. That was the moment I felt something snap inside me. But I didn't flinch, I didn't cry. I turned and walked away because I understood something very important. Olivia wasn't stealing my husband. Marcus was giving himself away, piece by piece, smile by smile. It wasn't just betrayal, it was confirmation, and I needed it, because now my decision wasn't just fueled by anger. It was anchored in clarity. I was no longer trying to fix anything. I was planning how to destroy them both. Over the next week, I became a ghost in my own house. I gave Olivia space. I let her dominate the kitchen, the TV, even the garden I'd planted. She took selfies in my apron, posted pictures with Marcus under hashtags like #SiblingGlove and #HeelWayShazMeBack. People in the comments didn't know what they were looking at, but I did. She was playing wife, and I let her. The final straw came one evening when I walked into the garage and found Olivia going through our storage boxes, the ones labeled wedding, vacation, anniversary. Oh, she said, jumping. I was just looking for extra blankets. The boxes were open. My wedding dress was half unfolded, and she was holding our honeymoon photo album. My heart pounded, but my face stayed calm. Find what you needed, I asked. She smiled. Not yet. She didn't even bother lying. And Marcus, that night, he said, maybe it's time to declutter, Alana. Some of those memories are outdated. That was when I knew I had him. He wasn't just letting her in. He was locking the door behind her, and I was already on the other side, planning my exit with everything. I'd already met with a lawyer. I'd already gathered bank statements, documented all household assets, and created backups of Marcus's company records, the one we co-owned, though he had forgotten that part. I'd found his weak spots, his liabilities, the funds he thought I didn't know about, the investments made under both our names that he assumed were just his, and Olivia, she was too busy playing house to notice. I was bleeding them both dry from the inside. I was done crying, done pleading, done being the quiet, patient wife while a woman who shared my last name tried to take my identity. She thought she was clever, but I was about to show her what it looked like when the real queen plays the long game. And Marcus, he would never see me coming. I don't know the exact moment Olivia let her guard down, but it must have been somewhere between the night she found my wedding album and the morning she wore my perfume. That perfume, a rare French blend Marcus gave me on our 3rd anniversary, was locked in the back of my closet. And when I walked into the kitchen that day, it hit me first, sharp, floral, intimate. It wasn't just an invasion, it was a declaration. She wanted me to smell it on her. She wanted me to notice, so I smiled. New scent. I asked. She turned, lips painted in the same coral shade I once wore, and replied, thought I'd try something grow. Nup. Grow. Nup. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I leaned into her delusion and let her believe she was winning, because I'd learned that the easiest way to destroy a snake was to let it coil around itself long enough to choke. By then, I'd already put my plan in motion. First, the finances. I opened a secret bank account under my maiden name. Slowly, discreetly, I redirected automatic payments from our joint accounts Marcus never noticed, too distracted by Olivia's midnight therapy sessions and morning smoothies. I began shifting money from the household account into my new one, small amounts at first, untraceable, unalarming, then the business. What Marcus forgot or never really understood was that the consulting company we started 5 years ago, the one he often told people he built from the ground up, was actually registered under both our names. Legally, I was a 50% owner, but practically, I knew every contract, every client, every legal weak spot. I had full access to the books, so I started downloading client lists, payment histories, internal messages. Evidence of Marcus's financial mismanagement, late payments, inappropriate write-offs, and the petty detail that he was now funneling company funds into personal dinners with Olivia. Not that I needed all of it. I just wanted to be overprepared. When the blow came, I wanted it to be catastrophic. Third, the image in public. I remained the doting wife. I smiled in front of friends, liked Olivia's ridiculous posts. I even commented once under a photo of her and Marcus at the farmer's market. So glad you two are bonding. That comment alone got 30 likes and a private message from my college friend asking, "Are you okay?" I told her yes. But in truth, I was better than okay. I was getting ready. Meanwhile, Olivia got bolder. She started walking around in satin robes that barely closed. She made us dinner once, just the two of them, with candles, and when I came home early from a staged yoga class. She looked at me like I was the intruder. "Oh," she said, knife in hand, "we didn't expect you so soon. We, not Marcus, not I. We, that night, I moved a box into the guest room. I told them I'd been feeling off. Lately, maybe menopause, maybe depression, who knows?" They nodded sympathetically while I packed a few clothes and walked down the hallway like I was the problem. not the woman who'd been sleeping in my skin, but that spare bedroom was no prison. It was a war bunker. I kept my laptop hidden there, not the one Marcus had access to, a second one, password, protected double, encrypted. I spent nights writing emails to my attorney, assembling folders of evidence, preparing a timeline so airtight no judge could deny what had been happening. I even found a way to put a tiny camera in the living room, one of those baby monitor models shaped like a clock. I synced it to my phone. It caught enough to show how she sat on his lap, enough to show her feeding him grapes, enough to show them drunk on wine and secrets, giggling about how much easier life would be once I finally cracked. What Olivia didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I was already cracking open a future without them. I updated my will. I spoke with the company accountant privately. I negotiated with Marcus's former partner, a man he'd stabbed in the back years ago, and offered him an irresistible deal, a chance to buy Marcus out quietly if I could secure full control. He agreed eagerly. The final piece of the trap came with our anniversary, our 7th. Marcus didn't remember. Olivia did. She joked about it at dinner. 7 years, that's the itch year, right? She said, smiling at me over her wine glass. You gonna make it? I smiled back. Oh, we'll make it. I just think the next chapter will be different. 2 days later, I left a manila envelope on Marcus's desk. Inside, divorce papers, financial records, screenshots of his texts with Olivia, and a post-it note that read, "Don't worry, I'm not angry. I'm ready." When he found it, he came storming into the guest room, red-faced, panicked, stuttering. "What the hell is this, Alana?" I looked up from my book, calm, distant, already gone. "It's your freedom." I said, "You and your sister, wife, are welcome to it." His face drained of color. You don't understand. It wasn't. I do understand. I interrupted. I understand perfectly. That's why you're keeping the house. He blinked. Wait, what? I stood, handed him the final deed transfer documents. I'm giving you the house. No alimony. No fight. Just sign, and it's yours. He stared at me, suspicious. Confused, and Olivia, she came into the room then, wrapped in my robe, hair still wet from a shower. "What's going on?" she asked, and then froze when she saw the papers. I turned to her. "Congratulations," I said. "You win." But what they didn't know, what they couldn't have guessed, was that the house they were about to own, it wasn't sitting on land they controlled anymore. I had already negotiated a deal to buy the lot underneath it, through a shell company. They would get their dream home, but I would own the ground it stood on, and soon, very soon, I'd be collecting rent. The day Marcus signed the divorce papers, Olivia made pancakes. She stood in my kitchen. Well, her kitchen now in a lace-trimmed apron I'd once bought during a trip to Paris. She hummed while she flipped the batter, as if she were the star of some smug domestic fantasy. Marcus sat at the island bar, eyes puffy from a sleepless night, nervously checking his phone every few minutes like he expected a bomb to go off. He wasn't entirely wrong. I had already moved my things out the day before. There wasn't much left to take. My clothes, my books, a few heirlooms from my mother's jewelry box. The rest, I left it all. The furniture, the silverware, the artwork. Everything Marcus and I had accumulated in those 7 years of marriage. I gifted it to them, let them choke on it. My lawyer had warned me, of course. "Are you sure you want to give him the house?" he'd asked. "You're entitled to half of everything, and that property's value is—" But I stopped him. "Let them have it. I want them to feel like they won, because I wasn't walking away empty-handed, not even close. They thought I was just retreating, just a wounded wife crawling off to lick her wounds in silence. But the truth was, I had already filed every asset transfer, sealed every deal, and secured every loophole they didn't even know existed. I gave them the house, yes, but I'd already taken everything else that mattered. Marcus's company, mine now, on paper and in power, the land under the house, purchased through a shell company I set up 3 months ago. The retirement fund he didn't think I knew about, already drained through court, approved channels before he could touch it. The best part, he never saw it coming. And Olivia, she was too busy playing homemaker to realize I had torched the foundation they stood on. They moved fast after I left, Too fast. Within a week of the divorce being finalized, Marcus updated his relationship status. Olivia posted a photo of them at dinner, her diamond necklace glinting in the light, the same one I pawned off to fund the LLC that bought their land. The caption read, "New beginnings." I didn't comment. I just watched and waited because the paperwork takes time, but 3 weeks after the house was officially in their name, a letter arrived. I wasn't there to see it land in the mailbox, but I imagined it clearly. Marcus standing in the foyer, flipping through bills, Olivia probably dancing around to music in the background. He opens the letter, reads it once, then again. The color drains from his face. It was a lease agreement. An official notice from Everbrook Holdings stating that, as the new owners of the land beneath the property, they would be charging monthly rent for continued residence on the lot. A generous rate, really. But a clear message: the house may be yours, but the ground you walk on, mine. I expected a call, maybe even a confrontation. Instead, I got silence for 2 days. Eerily so. Then on the third morning, my lawyer forwarded me an email from Marcus's attorney, a desperate plea to negotiate, to come to reasonable terms. I didn't respond. I let them sit in the stew of their own arrogance. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about power. See, when Olivia first moved into my home, she tried to mimic me. She wore my perfume, used my skincare, even started making Marcus the same smoothies I used to blend for him before work. At first, I thought it was pathetic. This woman so desperate to be me that she began wearing my life like a costume. But now I saw it. Clearly, she didn't just want to be me. She wanted to erase me. She wanted my life minus me in it. That's why she planted seeds of doubt. Why she whispered lies about me being manipulative or cold. Why she told Marcus he deserved better, someone less controlling, more appreciative. And Marcus, he believed it, because it was easier than facing his own emptiness. Easier to replace me than reckon with what he'd become. So I gave them what they wanted, let them step into the version of my life they'd always fantasized about, and then I took the soul of it from underneath them. They could have the furniture, the kitchen, the memories, but I'd taken the security, the foundation, the future, and I wasn't done. Because remember that consulting firm Marcus and I had co-founded, the one he thought he still ran. After our divorce, I executed a buyout clause in the partnership agreement with my new majority share. Thanks to his recklessness, I voted him out, effective immediately. Another letter, another shock, another piece of his world slipping through his fingers like sand. Olivia stopped posting after that. The selfies dried up. The couple's brunches disappeared. Even Marcus's business page went quiet. A month later, I got a call, not from Marcus, from Olivia. She didn't sound smug anymore. She sounded tired, panicked. I didn't know about the lease. She said, he never told me. And now he's saying we might lose the house. I stayed quiet. I don't understand why you're doing this. I smiled, but she couldn't see it. I'm not doing anything. I replied, I let you have everything you wanted. Didn't I? She hesitated. Then she asked something unexpected. Do you hate me? The question sat heavy between us. No, I said softly. Hating you would give you too much space in my heart. I just finally made room for myself. And with that, I ended the call because I wasn't finished yet. Not until they understood what it meant to take everything from someone who built it with love. Not until they learned what it costs to try to replace a woman who was never temporary. 3 weeks after Olivia called me sounding like a ghost of her former self, the house I once lived in, the one she thought she had conquered, sat quiet on a Saturday afternoon. The blinds were closed, the grass had overgrown, and for the first time in months, there was no music blaring from the windows or fake laughter echoing off the porch. They weren't celebrating anymore. They were scrambling because they had the house, but I had the control. You see, when you're underestimated, you can build empires right under the feet of your enemies. That's exactly what I did. Everbrook Holdings, the shell company that bought the land under their feet, it wasn't just a cute revenge tactic. It was the foundation of a larger plan I'd spent months designing. While Marcus and Olivia mocked my cold detachment, I was networking with lawyers, real estate experts, and investors who owed me favors, and one by one, I took everything Marcus thought he controlled and transferred it under a silent web of trusts and subsidiaries, each one legally bulletproof, each one answering to me. That meant if Marcus missed even a single lease payment on the land beneath the house, I could evict them. And if he defaulted on the new terms of the buyout agreement, I slipped into the divorce settlement. When he clearly hadn't read, then his remaining shares in our company would automatically convert to debt I could call in at any time. He hadn't noticed because he was too busy flirting over scrambled eggs with Olivia to notice he was signing away the walls around him. Now the pressure was catching up. Olivia tried to hold the fantasy together. I knew that type, desperate to keep appearances while the floor collapsed beneath her. She still wore designer clothes, but I'd seen her listing them online under fake names. She still posted throwbacks, old photos of trips she hadn't taken in months, to make it look like life was golden. But reality doesn't stay behind the curtain forever, because the lease on the land, it had increased, quietly, legally, quarterly, and Marcus had already missed a payment. That triggered Clause 1, a 30-day notice to vacate. Clause 2 came into play the moment he tried to fight it in court and failed. My contracts were airtight. Now, Clause 3 was on the horizon, eviction. Let them try to keep their little castle, let them beg, but I wasn't done. I wanted them to feel it, not just lose it, so I turned up the heat. Marcus had some high-end clients from our old consulting firm executives, politicians, real estate magnates. What he didn't know was that many of them had already re-signed with me, quietly, strategically, because clients follow power and power no longer wore his nameplate. So when I invited them to an exclusive gala under my new brand, held at the Ivywood Hotel ballroom with lights, music, and the same wine Olivia used to brag about pouring for Marcus, they came and they posted. Photos flooded LinkedIn and Instagram, me in a crimson gown. Toasting with the board of directors, standing with leaders and founders while their captions celebrated my success. Marcus saw it. I made sure of it. He messaged me that night. You couldn't just walk away, could you? I stared at his message for a long time, and then I replied with just 3 words, I never walked, because that's what they never understood. I hadn't lost, I hadn't retreated. I chose silence so I could move without interference. I let them feel victorious so their guard would drop, and when it did, I rewrote the rules and built a kingdom while they decorated a crumbling shack. The eviction order was delivered 3 days later. Marcus tried to call, twice, then Olivia. She left a voicemail. Voice shaking, pride barely holding together. We didn't know it was like this. Please, can we talk? We're family, family. That word hit differently now. Family doesn't seduce your husband while you're nursing your father in hospice. Family doesn't whisper poison into your marriage and then smile over dinner like they didn't just drive a knife into your spine. Family doesn't put on your clothes, sit in your chair and act like they belong there more than you ever did. They weren't family. They were termites, burrowing in quietly until the structure collapsed from the inside. But I rebuilt. I moved into a brownstone in the heart of the city. Mine, paid in full with hardwood floors and a rooftop view of the skyline. My mornings were quiet, filled with peace. My nights were mine again. No fake apologies. No manufactured chaos. No walking on eggshells. And best of all, no pretending. I didn't need to be the good wife anymore. I didn't need to defend myself. They had taken everything they thought mattered, and I had let them, but I had taken what truly did, and now, with every passing day, they were choking on the realization. Marcus filed an appeal, of course, claimed the land lease was predatory, tried to push a sob story to the court, but contracts don't care about tears. The judge denied his request within 15 minutes. When the movers came, Olivia didn't even look out the window. Marcus did. He stared across the street at the black SUV parked by the curb. He knew it was me. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk. I just watched as the last box left the porch. Control doesn't need to scream. Sometimes control just watches. Quiet, calm, untouchable. Because when you truly win, there's no need for chaos. You let them collapse under the weight of the crown they tried to steal. 6 months after they were evicted from what used to be my home, Marcus and Olivia resurfaced in the most predictable way, not with an apology, not with ownership, but with desperation. They'd burned through what little pride they had left, and when people like them lose their spotlight, they don't go quietly, they show up with open palms, hoping the same person they tried to destroy might toss them a lifeline. They didn't come to me in person. They knew better. But Marcus sent a long email titled, "We Need to Talk." The body of the email was a pitiful attempt at rewriting history. He claimed Olivia was struggling mentally. that the affair wasn't what I thought it was, and that they had lost direction after the divorce. He said they'd been staying with one of Olivia's friends in a basement apartment and that he'd lost access to the accounts I had legally reclaimed. He called it a misunderstanding. It was no misunderstanding. It was the cost of betrayal, and yet, buried beneath all the cheap excuses and half-baked explanations was the real reason he was writing. They wanted help, money, a place to stay, a second chance. I read the email twice, not because I was unsure of my answer, but because I wanted to feel, just for a moment, what it was like to be needed by the very people who once laughed at my silence, who walked over me like I was invisible, who thought they had won, and now they were begging me the woman they'd tried to replace for mercy. I didn't respond. I forwarded the message to my lawyer, just to have it on file. Then I blocked his address. Revenge is not always about screaming at your enemies. Sometimes it's about watching them fall from a throne they built out of lies, while you build a life they could never touch. Mine was beautiful. My consulting firm had grown into something massive. I had hired people who were loyal, driven, and most importantly, kind. The toxic energy Marcus brought into the business had evaporated, and in its place was clarity, strategy, and respect. Clients trusted me. My staff admired me. I was no longer someone's wife or someone's shadow. I was a force. I traveled. Paris in spring, Costa Rica in the summer. My passport filled while their fridge emptied. I redecorated my life the way I once dreamed of redecorating that house, except this time I owned every corner. No one rolled their eyes at my taste. No one told me it was too expensive or too feminine. I didn't have to dull my shine to make anyone else comfortable. The day I heard that Olivia had started waitressing again, I didn't flinch. She had posted a blurry Instagram story from a dive bar across town. I wouldn't have even seen it if a friend hadn't sent it to me, laughing. Isn't this the same woman who said you were just a pretty face with no ambition? The message read, yes, it was, the same woman who once flirted with my husband in front of me, who wore my perfume and drank from my favorite mug and sat at my dinner table like she owned it. The same woman who whispered in Marcus's ear when I wasn't looking and fed him lies so slowly he forgot which version of me was real. Now she was carrying trays of cheap liquor for men who couldn't even be bothered to remember her name. Marcus, on the other hand, was worse off. He tried to sue me again, this time over emotional distress. My lawyer laughed out loud reading the claim. It was tossed before it even made it to court. That didn't stop him from spiraling further. Last I heard, he had moved back in with their mother. How poetic. He'd replaced a strong, loving woman with a manipulative coward, and when that ship sank, he went crawling back to the one woman who always enabled him. Let them rot together. They thought I'd be a memory, a weak little ghost floating around the edges of their story. But I was the one who rewrote the ending, and the most poetic part. I never screamed. I never keyed their car. I never posted angry rants or trashed their names at parties. I let them dig their own graves, and when they were buried beneath the weight of their own greed, pride, and betrayal, I didn't toss dirt on the coffin. I walked away, alive, thriving, untouched. I didn't want them back. I didn't want an apology. I didn't even want them to hurt anymore. I just wanted peace, and now I had it. I had the final word, not through revenge, but through results. Every time someone asked me how I built my firm, how I bounced back from that messy divorce, how I stayed so calm during chaos, I smiled, because I knew what they didn't. That calm was calculated. That silence was strategy. That kindness was the sharpest blade of all. They tried to turn me into a cautionary tale. Instead, I became a legend.